Welcome to the Rose Maroc podcast, where we talk about anything and everything. Love, healing, growth, business, friendships, relationships, family, social and current events, fashion, entertainment. The list goes on. Look, we even got drama. Okay, we got the tea. I mean, if we don't, then we'll find it somewhere. Nothing is off limits. And so, what? We have limits? Why are you gonna tell me that when I'm trying to be professional? You see me doing this. What do we or don't we? Oh, okay. Well, look, I guess you gotta follow to know. Be sure to be in tune with two of the craziest cousins every other Friday. Pretty soon you keep on listening. We all gonna be family. And you know how it is when family gets together, especially the cousins. Check you later. Welcome back, Rose family, to another episode of Rose Maroc Pod. It's your girl Bianca, and I'm on 1% energy right now, so excuse me.
And I'm Lauren, and I'll be her other 99%. We have to swap spaces sometimes, and that's okay.
That's because she got that good old panther on her head. That's the good old Wakanda panther on there. No, I'm joking. Okay, so how have you guys been? Had a nice week, nice 2 weeks, nice day, nice month. It's March. It is March already.
And it's my birthday month. I'll be 35 this month. Make some noise.
39. When you're 35, you're just automatically 39 because you're almost 40.
Once you're 35, you pretty much 40. Just keep it moving.
Just you're 40. It don't matter. No 36, 7, 8. Don't none of that matter no more.
Lordy, look who's 40.
30. About to have fun because I'm 21.
Nifty, almost 50. Heavily, pushing 70.
Lord O'Grady, I'm 80. Once you get 100, you just over the hill. It's just...
Yeah. Okay, sorry, y'all.
That was funny.
Yes, it was.
But anyway, Lauren and I would like to welcome you to episode 5 of Rose Maroc Pod. But before we get into the title, we always want to start off by thanking you guys for the continuous support, for the follow backs, the shares, the comments, the DMs, the views. Although last time we did have some issues, but we still want to thank those who went ahead and still listened to the episode with our technical difficulties that we had. But either way, we still wanted to deliver for you guys because that's what families do. We still going to deliver. So we want to thank you guys for continuing to support us, even with those difficulties, because Lauren and I are still learning much about this podcast. Even with season 2, there's still new things that we still learn now with us having visuals and mics, and it's just a learning process. But I'm thankful that you guys are still along for the ride and that you are continuing to push through with us.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely what she said, because, I'm not going to prolong it. I have a tendency to repeat everything, but I won't repeat it. I would just say we appreciate you guys and continue to support us.
So with that being said, I think this episode is going to be very informative, but it's going to be eye-opening as well, not only to the listeners, but you know how Lauren and I, when we start talking, and then, sometimes it's not that we get off topic, but it's just that we'll say things that we didn't discuss before. And Lauren, oh, I love that for us. Love it. And she's like, oh, that's good. So I think this is going to be one of those episodes. So this is episode 5 of Rose Maroc Pod, and it's called Trauma in the ER. But the ER stands for emotional realm.
Can you talk about what led up to us wanting, not necessarily situations, but talk more about like why we ended up doing this episode? Because a lot of our episodes come off just our conversations.
Right.
And we kind of always, so you want to talk about like what led us to doing this episode?
I think more so what led us to this episode is because a lot of individuals, and I think us included,
Okay.
we ignore trauma
Mm-hmm.
and not realizing that it then furthers us into that trauma or then brings on another type of trauma without us realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of I guess you can say consequences of that
Mm-hmm.
can further us into self trauma because we're not realizing what's leading us to this and we're not recognizing it to the point where we're able to not necessarily end it because I necessarily don't think trauma is ending. I think people just learn to cope with it,
Yeah.
and deal with it and find ways out of it. But I think trauma is never ending,
Yeah.
because there's good, there's bad.
Yeah.
So I think just our continuous conversations, not only between us, the things that we've gone through, but things that we've seen others in our circle and those outside of the circle, whether it be family, friends, or even people that we see socially, deal with trauma. And I think it's just something that is always addressed in other podcasts and movies and
Mm-hmm.
TV shows and books. So I think now, since we've gotten our feet a little wet into this whole podcast world, I think now would be a great time to bring that out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's more so noticeable, the older that we have gotten. And
Hmm.
it's certain things that I wouldn't say you take them for granted. I'm sorry, y'all. My window is open and a dog is outside barking. But it's certain things that you kind of don't really look for um earlier in life. And now that you grow, you get older, you get more mature, you get wiser, you start to see things and you say, I hope I don't look like that to other people. Or,
Right,
do this person know they look like this to other people? Or, you get what I'm saying? And
right,
so, just like everything we talk about, it makes you kind of self reflect. And me and B started talking just about like our own traumas. And then we were like, you know what? We're going to make this into an episode. And I always say Bianca is so creative with her titles. And when we talk about just like trauma in the ER, medically, it's just you talking about an emergency and people coming there to get help, you
right,
know? So I love the play on it. And ER, like she said, is the emotional realm. So it's kind of like how trauma affects us in that realm, you know?
right. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
like
with it all, we first have to discuss, just a short description of pretty much what is trauma.
okay.
And Lauren and I like to Google and we be on Google all day. So it came up that trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And I don't think there's to me that's the perfect definition. I know
Hmm.
there's multiple variations of it, but I think that's the best definition: a deeply distressing or disturbing experience.
I do too. I love that. And when you think about like when you're in stuff, you may not say, "Oh, this is deeply distressing and disturbing,"
Mhm.
but when you're out of it and you get to reflect, it makes so much sense why that's the definition of the word trauma, you know?
Right. And then
Mhm.
you realize everything that you've gotten into after that. And then it was like, oh, that was a disturbing experience because had it not been, then maybe two, three, and four wouldn't have happened after one. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Mhm.
I think that was the best the best definition for it. As far as we'll just go more into the title, emotional realm or ER. And so what I discovered or researched was that the emotional realm is, they called it, or they said, a situation or experience in which a person is feeling a strong emotion or a wide range of feelings. And we all know with emotions and feelings, especially in a trauma, you can feel confused, angry, upset, depressed, distressed, regretful, uh, fearful. It's so many different emotions that can go with being in a trauma,
Mhm.
um, that you're stuck now in this situation with all these emotions and you're just kind of stuck in this one place. be in the emotional realm of or whatever that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if a person was to lose a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
um, and sometimes it can depend on how their loved one was lost, and we're not gonna get too much into that, but you start to feel um, regret because you may not have gotten to see them as much, or I wish I could have done this, or I wish I would have said this to them, or they reached out to me, but you start to feel like regret. Of course, you're going to feel sad because they're no longer here. You may feel confused, especially depending on how they passed on. um, you may feel afraid, because you're not aware of your own feelings, and it's just a lot that goes on with it, and that's just one specific trauma, that all of those emotions can go just based off of this one thing.
Yeah. And when you talked about loss of a loved one and just talking about being in that emotional realm, I did not realize that how you said the emotional realm is like um the feelings or emotions that you have after something happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how much situational it is, because almost something always have to happen for you to react in a certain way.
Right.
um, I thought that emotional realm is just like your day to day. You know what I'm saying? However, I like how you breaking it down for me as well as the listeners, because it's like a lot of times we don't realize that we're in it while we're in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times I think we can go so deep into letting certain situations consume us,
Mm.
letting certain things kind of like take over us, when it's hard to kind of be like, okay, I'm in this state and I need to find a way to, break through that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that this is good for me because, I'm learning, I'm taking this all in.
Yeah, and I like that you said that when you're in it, the best thing, or the first thing someone thinks of, is how to make it out of it. But then
Hmm.
it's you're more so concerned about getting out. But once again, how we've always constantly said on this podcast, things, it's a process to things.
Hmm.
So you're so much concerned about getting out of this trauma that you're not taking note as to the steps you've taken, because trauma is going to happen again. I feel trauma is inevitable. It's nothing that we
Hmm.
can do to stop it or ignore it. So then once you come into a different type of trauma, once again, you're just stuck worrying on how to get out of it rather than the steps that is going to take, because then once it comes around again, okay, I've been here before, this is what I need to do. So I'm not more so concerned of just getting out of it, but working my way through it. That's
There
what
you
it is.
go.
Working my way through it rather
Okay.
than trying to just get out of it.
I like that because think of it, I think of it like as, okay, let's say you fell down a 50-foot well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you're focusing on is, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to escape. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. But you're
Right.
not, in the whole time, you're not coming up with a plan to work through it. I'm going to take this
Right.
rock and I'm going to put a hole right here in the wall and then I'm going to climb here. You know what I'm saying? We just panic.
Right.
And so sometimes when you go into that emotional realm, it's like you go down a hole, a 50-foot well, and you feel like you can't get out. And so, instead of like trying to work your way through, you just try, I gotta get out, I gotta get out. And then sometimes that can cause you to spiral deeper. It can cause you to behave in
Almost
ways that, yes, it can cause you behave in ways that's like not your norm. So
mm,
I kind of get that. That's what I was picturing when you was talking about it.
right. And then, like I said, that then, and we're not experts on trauma. We're not
Mm-mm.
psychiatrists, psychologists, none of that. But we're just speaking from what we feel and then
Hmm.
what we know personally. But I feel
Hmm.
like that then makes a trauma on top of a trauma. So not only am I dealing with the trauma of being in this well, but now I'm dealing with the trauma of not getting out the well.
Mm.
Instead of taking that time and stressing on that I'm in it, take that time to plan on how to work through it to get out of it.
Yes. And it's different. It's more than one way to skin a cat, kind of like.
You better say
So it's different. Like, okay, like Bianca talked about an example, like loss of a loved one. But it's so many different things that can cause you trauma.
that. Hmm.
What about bad relationships?
Bad relationships, bad friendships, even bad. connections within your family.
There you
And
go.
I think that's
Connections.
the most, I think that's the most ignored trauma,
Ooh.
is the connections within your family, because it
Woo.
comes up that, oh, they're your family, so you gotta love them, or you have to ignore them and just deal with it because they're your family. No, that's not true. God said, I gotta love you. I don't gotta like you.
Come on. And I like that word you use, connections, because anything that you're connected to has the ability to hurt you, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And
Right.
family trauma is big, especially in a lot of Black families. And once again, y'all, we're not experts. We're talking from experience, things that we've been through, things that people that we know have been through, things that we have seen in social media. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, trauma in the family is a big one. And excuse me, I know a lot with like Black families, we don't deal with that trauma. So then when you get older, you get resentment towards certain people.
You're still stuck in that realm and not being able to move out of it because you haven't worked your way through it. So you're
Mm,
still in that realm of, let's say for example, the most common one is male Black figures in the family home.
okay.
Um, and trying to break what we know, and I'm not sure if you guys know out there, but the generational curses of um not being a father to your children within the Black home, whether you're in the home or not. So then, and I mean, I can't speak on a male, but I can speak on being a female and thinking of, if my father is not in the home, or not even not in the home, but my father is not participating as he should, then I'm stuck
Hmm.
in this realm of not feeling worthy. I'm stuck in this
Mm,
realm of not knowing how to love or be loved by a man. I'm stuck in this realm of seeing what my mother went through. And so
hmm.
now I'm stuck in this realm of, I only know how to act this way with a man because this is how I've seen it done in my home.
So, question,
Hmm.
um, how does that translate to maybe relationships or past relationships or even friendships with a male or just the male dynamic altogether? How did that translate? Because trauma, y'all, is something, like we said, we don't always notice that, okay, this trauma, I have trauma from this, or lingering trauma. Have you
Hmm.
realized, or has it not affected the way that you have relationships or friendships with men?
Um, and I'll be honest about it. My father, and we've had a conversation,
Mhm.
that, he wasn't, my dad wasn't like a deadbeat or anything. He just wasn't there or involved as much as he is now that I'm older. But I feel like that had to
Okay.
do with growth on his part as well, because he
Hmm.
said, I didn't know how to be a father because I really didn't have that great of a father. Once again, that generational curse. So I felt like with that, when it came to male companions and or relationships, I was, I guess I was looking for that love from my father, or that acceptance from my father in other
Hmm.
males. So when it came time for a friendship or relationship to end, I didn't want it to, because in the back of my mind, it was like, what happened with the relationship with my dad? And
Hmm.
so I don't think until worked through it, spoke to the person who caused me so-called trauma, spoke to my dad, and we had a discussion, and now we're on a better path, a better relationship. So now I can start to see how I'm now deciding to choose and involve males in my
Hmm.
life rather than how I was before, because
That's
now
good.
I've worked through it. I've gone through it. So now I know not to try to put myself back in that type of trauma. But like I said, trauma is inevitable. People can portray
Hmm.
themselves as one way and you'll be stuck back in it. But this time, if it does happen, I know, yeah, I've seen this before, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
put myself back in it. So I know my way out of it before I get into it.
Right. And oh my God. And I wanted to say two things real quick. That one, I commend you for just that being your truth. You know what I mean? And you actually saying, and I know that you've told me that you talked to your dad about it, but I commend you just for wanting to share that, because you never know who on here is listening. And
Right.
wants to hear it. I hope I didn't overstep boundaries by asking that question, but I love your honesty on that and just the realness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was gonna say too, when you talked about, you said something so good. You was like, with that trauma, if this happens again, I now know, like, nah, I've seen this before. However, opposed to some people, trauma is a pattern for them that they
Right.
can't break, you know. And for some people, trauma feels so comfortable to them that
Mm-hmm.
they may not know how to operate outside of the trauma because they're just sitting in comfort.
Right.
And I like the fact that you said, nah, I recognize this before, meaning that I'm not going down this road again, you know.
Right. And I think that goes with working through it because once again, if you are not working through the trauma and just focusing on getting out of it, then
Hmm.
when it comes around again, you're gonna just go you just it's just gonna be like you said, a pattern. It's gonna be repeating
Yes.
cycle, but it's not gonna be recognizable as trauma to you because like you
Right.
said, you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You think this is the norm when it's not.
Yes. I love that. And one time, my therapist told me, she said, some people only know how to operate in chaos
Mm,
because it's all they've ever known.
right. They like the
Yeah.
noise. They don't like the quietness of it because to them it's like it's too quiet. I gotta have some type of ruckus going on in order for me to
Yeah.
operate.
Yep. They thrive in it. And I could say, like, I've been that person sometimes. And the chaos can be anything. It could be, oh, I'm not used to having a good relationship, so I self sabotage. I have done that a lot.
Right.
I have done that a lot. And I'll even say, like, even in my current relationship, like, I got to check myself sometime because I've had trauma from previous relationships. And it's like therapy has allowed me to just be like, hold on, is this something that is triggering for you, or is this really something that's going on? And we can get into more of examples a little later, but I was going to say, with speaking of triggers, um there are internal triggers and external.
Okay.
And for me, a lot of my triggers were external,
Okay.
meaning that, like, and just in general, not just with the relationship trauma, but trauma for me, a lot of my triggers are external. I'll just give y'all a random example. I let's say I don't like birds. I don't know. But I would see a bird and I would get afraid, or I would hear a bird and I would get afraid. So a lot of my trauma is like, oh dang, that's a picture of such and such. Oh, that may you get what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that external triggers, you can't escape them
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be around things that remind you of trauma. You're going to
Right.
see and hear things that remind you of it. So I had to kind of, like you said, again, work through it when I do get those traumas. How do I work through it? Because I am a big person that likes to avoid things,
Right.
thinking that if I don't address it, it'll go away. And that's something I've had to learn not to do over the years.
Mm. And I like that triggers that I think that's a big cause of ongoing trauma.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that brings up a lot in individuals, like you said, who haven't worked through it.
Mhm.
Because if you work through it, a trigger is going to be a trigger, but how does it affect you in the end?
Yeah.
You know, once that trigger goes off on that gun, are we shooting blanks or we shooting bullets?
Come on.
Oh, wait a minute. I better say that.
Say it again.
When the trigger go off, is we shooting blanks or we shooting bullets? Meaning, when the trigger go off, are we getting any type of reaction out of it?
Come
Is it
on.
gonna hurt me or is it just gonna phase me?
Come on.
So I better say that, girl.
I like that.
I know, right? Ooh, I like that. You go.
Can it,
I
can
love
it
that.
really can it really cause damage, or is it just gonna scare me a little bit?
Right,
Yeah.
right. That was fake. Okay.
But either way, you're gonna duck because you're traumatized.
That was good.
We're not laughing at the trauma
No,
fact, y'all. We just get
laugh at each
excited when
other.
we get excited when we feed off of each other. So good. But that was real good that you said, B.
Yeah,
That's
that was.
and it's always something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I react when this happens? How do I react when I see this person? How do I react when I hear this song? How do I react when I get this feeling? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's big. And that's a self-awareness thing.
Mm.
It is. And I know you was telling me about just well, not you was telling me, we were talking about when we were talking about dealing with trauma, how people present themselves outwardly, and it's like everybody else knows, like,
I
that's
was
a
ready to
defense.
say that too.
Yeah, that's a defense mechanism, or you're projecting your feelings onto somebody else, or you're, what's the word they use, be deflecting.
Right.
Yeah. How, what is like, because I know, like, we've seen that with ourselves and we've seen that with other people. What is that like, knowing that it doesn't matter? You could tell a person like, girl, you is deflecting, or you was doing this, or man, you doing this. Like, they will never see it until they come out of it. So how is that?
I think, and we can go back to the emotional realm with it. I think once they experience a trauma, the type of attention they're getting from it, because people love attention. Some people love attention no matter how they're getting it, whether it's negative or positive, it's attention to them. So, I mean, and I can only just go based off of what I think, my opinion. I feel like once a person is in a trauma, and we all know, let's go back to the love of a lost one again. The the girlfriend, wife, daughter, mother of that person that passed away is going to get that attention. Although it's not good attention, attention. Although it's not good attention, it's attention regardless.
Okay.
So when a person is put into a trauma and they're stuck in this emotional realm of being sad, and or they could be in a situation of being played by someone, um, they want that attention either way because they want to make light of the situation and get an audience because
Okay.
they're seeking that attention because that's all. Yeah, I may be in this trauma, but I'm gonna get this attention, and
Yeah.
they think that that's the end goal or the good part of it. When it's like you're still traumatizing yourself. So
Yeah.
not only are you getting trauma from this situation, person, experience, but now you're traumatizing yourself because you're putting yourself further into that well
Hmm.
and not knowing how to get out because you're just putting
Yes.
yourself further down and you're piling more trauma on top of you and it's like quicksand.
Yeah. And when you say, like, people make light of their situation, it's kind of a double-edged sword. And you have to be careful with that, because it's like, kind of like, oh, I'm gonna laugh at me before anybody else can laugh at me. So let me just, you know what I'm saying? Let me just throw it out there and try to act like. And then on the other side of that, there's, I've been through this, I've healed from it, so now I can laugh at it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like finding balance. Once again, it goes back to being real with yourself. Am I just throwing this out there as a defense mechanism to make it look like I'm not bothered and I'm laughing? Or am I really over this and I'm like, you know what? I'm past it now, so I can look back and laugh. You know?
Right.
I have some things that I can look back and laugh on, but I have some things that really still bother me that sometimes I may act like it doesn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's for me, because I am a person, I struggle really hard with vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what me and my therapist always like work on with me, because I will not say that you hurt me if you did. I will not let you see me cry if you are the one that hurt me. I'm like, yeah, right. You're gonna see me stand tall, like ain't nothing bother me. And that's in relationships, friendships, the job, co-workers, whatever. I'm a person that I have always liked to put on like a stone face.
Okay.
And I have to let myself know it's okay to be sad about trauma. It's okay to cry about trauma. You know, this defense mechanism is not helping you all the time. It's hurting because
Right.
you're blocking it out.
And I think that's the opposite for me. And I think
Okay.
so too. That goes back to um like I said, what I've dealt with trying to get and be closer with my dad since I was
Okay.
younger. I
Hmm.
couldn't voice. I'm not gonna say I couldn't voice how I felt, but when you're younger and you voice how you feel, some people just shrug it off and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I got older as a grown woman and I was able to say, "No, Dad, that hurt me." And
Hmm.
from that, I got results. So I think now I'm the opposite, where if somebody does hurt me, I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah.
I didn't like what you did. This is how I felt. Now, I don't necessarily expect for them to change. I'm not gonna say I don't expect, because we all would like for something to change once we say that we don't like something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I'm not looking. I'm gonna say this. If I tell you did something that hurt me, or whatever the case is, I'm not expecting you to change, but I would like for you to accept that it made me feel this way.
Okay.
Because I can say something to somebody and they be like, "Oh, you hurt my feelings by what you said." I'm like, "Okay, maybe I said it wrong, but I meant what I said." So I apologize to you about how I made you feel, but it doesn't change what it was.
So is it more so like an acknowledgement thing for you? Like, just acknowledge that this is how you
Yeah,
make. Okay.
right. It is.
I get that.
Acknowledge that you did this to hurt me, and acknowledge the way that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Um, because like I said, I think that's my trauma that I'm still dealing with, and I think that still stems from um my father and all that. I
Okay.
hate to be ignored. Oh, I hate to be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a trigger. Oh, now it's different if I'm reaching out, I'm trying to do something, somebody lets me know, hey, I'm busy right now. I'll get at you later. And they could be friends, family, whatever. But oh, I hate to be ignored. I
Mm-hmm.
do. I do.
Yeah. And like you said, people's triggers are different. So you hate to be ignored. Now me, and I'm just saying, just for the sake of our conversation, right? For me, I'm like, being ignored is not really that bad. But you know what? That's your trigger, not mine.
Right.
So no, I can't. And that's a thing that we have to come to balancing when you're in a friendship, when you're in a relationship, when you work with alongside people. You have to have balance. You have to know, okay, um, Bianca, I don't like when you talk to me snippy like that. And you're like, well, I'm not talking, it's not coming off. I'm not trying to come off that way. But if you're
Right.
receiving it that way, so then next time, okay, that's a trigger for her. I know how to approach her. So
Right.
everybody's triggers are different, but it does take a brave person to say, you hurt me. This is what you did to me. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? So again, I commend you for that, because I've always thought that I was brave by not letting people see, like, yeah, what? Oh no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I thought that was so brave of me. But over the years, I realized is that that's kind of like timid in a way, because I didn't, and this is me in the past, because I didn't want to address things. So I would just act like everything is okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I thought that I was being brave, because sometimes, and this is trauma, this stems from trauma, we're taught as Black women to never let a person see you down. You have to be strong. Wipe them tears. You don't need a man. You don't need friends. Go to work. Get your. This is what we're taught growing up, and not necessarily by our parents, but just as a society, right, B?
Right.
As a society. Um, and so yeah, I think that's something major. You know what? I wanted to kind of take a break here, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Because this is going to be a two-parter, y'all. Y'all know we love a good cliffhanger. So this is going to end part 1 of Trauma in the ER. Y'all know we drop episodes every other Friday. So head on over to our Instagram at RFAR_pod. So after you watch this one, you can be up to date on when part 2 is dropping. So until then, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap, baby. OMG, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you had fun listening. We hope that you were able to take something with you from this episode. And if you did, head on over to our Instagram page right now and tell us about it at RFAR_pod. That's RFAR_POD. Drop us a comment. Leave us a DM. We're family now. Until then, you know the motto. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you don't have any friends, go make some, just so you can tell them about Rose from a Rock Pod. Peace out, y'all.